All right. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's doing great on this Wednesday evening. I'm here with my friend Colin Novak with Panther Inspections. And my name is Carlos Cruz. I'm a realtor with Austin 101 Realty. And today we're going to be talking about inspections and how this relates to the process of buying a house. Okay, so it's all going to be related towards buying a house and doing the inspections and why they're so important and what are some of the most common things that we will find on the inspections and maybe possible fixes. All right, we'll try to get as much information as we can. And of course, if you have any questions, are you currently going through the process of buying a house or thinking about buying a house and not really sure if you should expend the few $100s for the inspections, then hopefully this video can help. And again, I'm here with Colin with Panther Inspections. How are you, Colin?
Doing very well, Carlos, and I appreciate you having me on today.
It's my pleasure, man. Thanks for joining me today. And again, I try to bring people, the experts, because when I'm showing the homes and I talk about many different things, but remember, I'm not the expert at those things, right? So it's just better, last week or a couple of weeks ago, we had Michael with HSS Painting, and now we got an inspector here on the show. So that's awesome. All right, so let's get into this. I don't want to make this a really long video, so we're going to start by talking about, the process of buying a house, okay? Specifically, the option period, okay? What is the option period? The option period is a specific number of days, okay, and everything is negotiable in the contract. But let's say 5 to 7 days, okay, when the buyer, okay, after the offer is accepted, the buyer can go into this option period, okay, let's say 7 days, and during those 7 days, that's typically when the buyer and my suggestion would be to bring in the inspector, okay, to inspect the house and make sure that everything is fine, no major issues, no major problems. And then if everything goes well, then we proceed with the contract. If something is really bad about the house, some of the findings from the inspector, then you have the option to terminate the contract. So that's what this is an option period. It's your option to buy it, and then it's your option to terminate the contract as well. So during this option period, okay, that's typically when we bring the inspector, okay, and the inspector will be there at the property. Typically, they take about 3 hours or so. It used to be about 3.5 hours. Now I notice lately it's been more like 2.5, maybe 3 hours. And it really depends on the house, right? How big the house is, how new the house, the year of the house. So, but let's say it takes about 3 hours. I like to meet with my clients towards the end of the inspection. Okay, after the inspector is done, we really don't want to bother the inspector during the 3 hours, right? We need to let him do his work, let him do his job, and then let's say the last 30 minutes, we can show up there right before he's done, and then maybe he can walk us through the house and some of the major issues with the house, and maybe we can review some of the report that he's already compiling. So it's really important to meet with the inspector that day, because if you don't meet with the inspector that day, then you're just going to get a report, okay, probably by that same evening or by the next day. We're going to get a report that's, I don't know, 40, 60 pages long, and then it's going to be a little bit hard to really see, the problems when you're looking at a picture only. But if we meet with the inspector the day of the inspections at the end, then the inspector can actually walk with us through the house and he can point out some of the issues, right, with the house. So that's one of the big advantages of meeting with the inspector. And because I know my clients will be asking me, so what do you think about this? And is this a problem? Should I ignore this? Well, that's your chance to ask those questions, right? That's your chance to ask the expert, which is the inspector, and not me. I do have the experience, and I've done many transactions, and I've been at many inspections, so I know what are some of the most common things. But it's better to hear it from the inspector. I don't want any liabilities. So, all right. So, Colin. So let's say we went under contract. Okay, So this is the typical scenario, right? We submit the offer, our offer is accepted, we go under contract, we have an option period, let's say 5 to 7 days, okay? We call you in, set up the appointment, and then what happens there? Okay, so you get to the house. How long does it typically take you to do an inspection?
Yeah, so in Austin here, in a lot of Texas, we typically have like a 2,000 square foot house, and a lot of them tend to be between 40 and say 10 years old, just kind of an average, right? On the stuff that's, let's just say, 20 years old and 2,000 square feet, that's your pretty typical house. Something like that's going to take us about 2.5 to 3 hours, because you're right. Technology has caught up with the inspection industry and is being fed into it. And a lot of us, as myself included, are using the best technology we can to make the home inspections more detailed and faster, right? So usually 2 to 3 hours is all you need.
Great. So do realtors and their clients typically meet with you towards the end of the inspection? Because that's what I recommend my clients to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend the same thing. You're right. That does give the clients this amazing kind of experience to wrap up in a nutshell. What are the things that we need to take away from the inspection, right? There's going to be a ton of stuff. Like you said, inspection reports can be anywhere from 20, 30, 60, 100 pages. Sometimes I've even written. But not all 100 pages are what you really want to take away so that you can proceed forward with the transaction, right? So that little walkthrough, if you will, or that time with your inspector really gives you an opportunity to talk to them about what they're seeing around the house, ask any questions about things that they've said, things they've mentioned. And we're really not supposed to prioritize things for our clients, and that's just Texas rule, a Trek thing. But at the same time, we can talk about our experiences and what clients tend to, what they tend to look for and what they tend to care about, right? And we can talk about things that may be like higher ticket items, or things that could really do damage in the long run. We can give examples of those kinds of things. And then in doing so, we can help clients understand the importance of some of the larger items that they're looking at on this report. What I find that does, it really gives them a chance to prioritize things in their mind for themselves, things that they are worried about, things that they really find important for a home, right? Because we're not all the same, and our homes are not always the same, and the way we live is not the same. And so we're going to have different priorities, everybody, right? So this really gives a chance for the client to get those priorities in line. And then hopefully what I love doing is help putting the clients, their worries, the things that they're concerned about, putting those at ease, right? We want to make this not an emotional transaction. Of course, it's always going to be, but we want to take the emotion out of, especially the inspection side of things, because that really helps us get to the nitty gritty, right? It helps us go, okay, this is what we have, and this is what we're going to do about it, and this is how we can proceed forward. Because that's my ultimate goal as an inspector. In my company, I want to take clients from, I'm worried that there's something going on in this house, to here's what we're going to do to proceed forward.
And that's exactly correct. And I like what you said. We don't really like to prioritize because everybody's comfort level is different, right?
Yeah.
My comfort level is way different to my, let's say, my wife, right? Or a lot of my clients. I'm used to this. Okay. Yeah. I see these reports, on a weekly basis, right? I see these reports a lot. So I'm like, oh, that's a common thing, that like every house, I know my house. I know if you come to my house right now, even though it's on the newer side, you'll find a ton of things. But I'm perfectly fine living with these issues, right? Right. A lot of those are cosmetic. So I don't like to prioritize, but I do like to categorize a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. And I tend to do that with my clients. Okay, let's focus on like 3 different areas. Okay, the major concerns, in my opinion, okay, again, is everybody's different, but it's just my opinion, is the major concerns and the things that we can easily negotiate during the option period. Okay, and that's what the option period is. Okay, so let's say there's so many things wrong with the house. We're going to try to negotiate things with the seller. Okay, and the seller, the seller doesn't have to agree to any of these items. Okay, they don't have to repair anything. They don't have to give you credit for anything. They don't need to do anything. Okay, and in this market, a lot of the sellers are like, hey, I'm not doing anything. I'll just take the next offer, because they get so many offers. So they don't have to do anything, but again, you don't have to buy the house. And that's why you purchase the option period, right? So that you have the right to terminate the contract if the seller is being unreasonable and is not really cooperating with us as far as, okay, let's find a way to move forward. Let's see, fix a few items for us and maybe give us a credit for a few other items. And, it's just kind of, let's try to make it work. Okay, so everybody wins. But again, so I like to categorize this in 3 different areas. One is health and hazard. Okay. Yep. To me, that is, okay, that's a red flag. Okay. What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about, things that, electrical problems. Okay. That could cause, it can start a fire on a house, right? If it's not done properly. Right. And we'll talk about the different codes and, the different codes and all that. We'll talk about that later. But basically, things that can really, damage the health of an individual, right? Or the tenants, your tenants, if you're an investor or the owner, another thing will be, simple things as maybe carbon monoxide detectors, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not a big item and it's not really expensive, but if you don't have that, and then, so many different things, right? On the HVAC, on the water heater, when it's gas, the fumes can go into the house, so they need to be blocked. So many different items that are considered, the GFCI breakers, right? That could trigger, some safety hazards, right? And then the other item will be, okay, well, some of the things that are broken. Okay. This is not a health and safety item, but it's something that is broken with the house. Okay. This door doesn't close, or, the garage door opener doesn't open. That doesn't really damage your health or cause any problems, but, it's something you want fixed, right? To be able to move forward.
Right. All those maintenance items, they're more either aesthetically displeasing or a nuisance than they are really a danger to anybody or anything, right?
Exactly. And that will be my third category, really. Things that are cosmetic. I don't like the paint. I don't like the carpet. This is, the caulking around the home, right? That's something that's really common on homes, right? People don't really go around the house and do the proper cutting and sealing of the windows. But it's just a maintenance things that, you have to do once you're moving into the house, and you have to keep on doing it every few years. Let's say every 5 years, 7 years. That's still something you have to maintain. So it's really hard to negotiate on those items, the ones that are maintenance, right? The ones that are cosmetic. It's really hard to go back to the seller and say, hey, I want you to caulk the whole house, right? Or I want you to replace the carpet and, do something else. That's really being unreasonable from the buyer. But it's perfectly fine to ask, and then I ask the big 3 or 4 items, ticketed items. We have to look at this as money-wise, right? How much is it going to cost you to replace the whole roof? So the roof is a big item, right? The AC, right? The AC will be it's thousands of dollars to replace the AC. Yes. And then the major other one will be the foundation, right? Repairing a foundation can easily be $20,000 on a house, right? So, I mean, those are the 3 big items that if there's anything wrong with those, I mean, either we try to negotiate those, or my recommendation will be back out of the contract. Maybe let's find another house. I mean, because a house with foundation problems, I mean, it's going to be a headache now and later, right?
Right.
And then roof, if the seller doesn't want to replace the roof or the seller doesn't want to file a claim, that will be a whole different, headache for you, right? And then
Yeah.
another item will be the electrical as well. In my opinion, those are big items. Electrical could be somewhat expensive, depending
Mhm.
on, if you have to replace the whole panel or things like that. But so I like to categorize the whole inspection that way. And that way we can just focus and narrow down into specific items that are, health and safety concerns for my clients. What
Right.
would you think about this, Colin?
Yeah, so I love doing the same thing, and it sounds like our categorization process is very similar. So I go through basically, and this is how I speak to my clients when I'm having this time with them. And I really find that the categories, first and foremost, help them understand things a little bit better, help ease their mind, right? So the health and safety and large ticket items, those go into my first category. Okay. Those are the things that I always talk to my clients about. And I spend the majority of my time talking with them about so that they understand what's going on. They understand maybe why it would be expensive and maybe a rough estimate, $10,000 or $5,000, whatever it is, so that they know, okay, yeah, that's something I really want to go talk to a professional about and get a quote, right? If I want to proceed forward with the transaction, and then the other things I want to make sure, if we're talking about those big items, if it's a safety item, I want them to understand why it's a safety item, so that it puts it in the back of their head going, okay, yeah, that's something I really want to do. You know, yeah, that's something I really want to fight for, even though I had no idea that was a safety issue before, because we have different building, they're light codes, but building standards, things like that, that really are important for safety, right? So just like your carbon monoxide alarms, your smoke detectors, things like that, a lot of them aren't very expensive. And they are things that can be put aside for later on, say when the client moves into their house. So they don't always have to be big ticket items, but they could be extremely important. And they don't always have to happen right now, but you do want them to happen very soon,
Uh, uh,
So
right.
go
And
ahead. I mean,
I like to tell my clients, think about this, we'll use the inspection report as a negotiation tool. All right.
yeah,
If there's no major concerns and you want to move forward, we can still use it as a negotiation tool. Okay.
right.
And then all these other items, that we're not going to try to negotiate, that you can put them aside, just like you said, those could be like to-do lists, right? to the
Yes,
new owners, right? To the husband, here's your
yes,
to-do list. You got
yes,
these 10, 15 items that, you got to take care if you want to maintain a good property, right? Your
absolutely.
investment, because the property is a good investment, right?
Right,
So make sure that you take care of those to-do lists, and then back, 5-10 years from later on, when you sell the house, you already took care of a lot of the things because you were maintaining the home every year, every couple of years, and making sure everything was fine. All right, so
right.
let's talk about negotiation tools. Okay, so
Yeah,
again, we use the option period to be able to negotiate with the sellers on a number of different things. Okay, one of those things are the items that come back from the inspection report. Okay, think about this. I had some clients, okay, that were like, I don't need an inspection. It's okay. I have a friend, or my brother does remodeling, or my brother-in-law does this, or my cousin, he's a painter. It's just like, oh, or that's what I do for a living. A lot of my clients do that, these trades for a living. and
yes,
and they're like, okay, well, I don't really need an inspection. I mean, what can go wrong?
right.
But then I have to, when we're submitting a contract, as part of the paperwork that I send you, is for your protection, get a home inspection. That's
Yes,
the title of the document that I make you sign as my buyer, because I want to make sure that I told you, hey, for your protection, get a home inspection. But not only that, let's say that you're going to spend, I don't know, $400 or $500 on an inspection report, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to spend $500, right? Think about this. I can probably negotiate more than $500 once we have the report, right?
Yes.
So I mean, easily, right? Colin, I mean, you provide us the report. It should be pretty simple to negotiate or give my credit, my client a credit from the seller for more than what they pay for the inspection.
Right. And usually that's what I find almost every single time. I like telling my clients, your inspection will pay for itself. It doesn't matter if you get negotiations done or if you're actually paying for work later on. Because when you find something, you move into a brand new house or whatever it is, new to you house, you can go, okay, well, I want to fix these, say, 5 things. Well, if 3 of those things you talk to your inspector about and the inspector said, yeah, they may be a nuisance or whatever, but you don't need to fix those. Those are not a safety issue. They're not anything that's going to cause the home long-term harm, things like that. Then why do you want to fix those? Why not put your own money that you're having to spend into something else? So even if, and I've never had this happen before, even if your inspection did not do something for you during negotiations, it'll do something for you later in your decision-making process. I promise you.
It will, and it will.
Yeah.
All right, Colin. So let's talk about the coding, the building codes. You did touch up a little bit on that. I'd like to expand on that because, I mean, I'm showing homes that are built in the early 2000s, built in the 90s. They're perfectly fine, but, there are going to be a lot of things that at the time when this home was built, all right, it was a different building code standards.
Yes.
Now we're fast forward to 2021, 2022. And then, of course, those building standards have changed. They pretty much change like every year, I believe.
They do.
So can you talk about that? Because on the reports, you will be pointing out a lot of those things are not up to code. What do you really mean by that? Or should the buyer be concerned about those items?
Yeah, and that's something I love. I spend probably like 2 to 3 minutes talking to every single one of my clients about this, as long as they're not an investor who has done this 100 times before, right? Because they've already seen it. But what I tell my clients is like, look, the codes do change every single year. At least some part of the codes is updated, rewritten, things like that. And usually when the home is built, it's at a certain code level, right? For whatever year it was built. And that was approved at that time. So what I tell people is that, look, the house has been performing this well for that long, right? Mm-hmm. So unless it's a major safety issue that I'm seeing, I don't actually recommend that you bring the house up to code. Nor is it something that a homeowner or a seller is ever required to do until, and this is the big exception, until we are in some sort of like a City of Austin or City of Cedar Park where they would require a permit pulled for a large remodel, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the only time you should ever listen to anybody, and it better be the code official. That's the only time you ever listen to somebody and think about them saying, okay, yes, that does need to come up to code. That's the only time when something like that has to change. So there are hundreds of little things that we may find on an inspection, and say there's 10 of these items that are little maintenance things that you would love to have get done, right? Maybe you don't, hubby, and you are way too busy to even think about it, and you'd rather not hire a handyman. Get it all quoted out by the handyman. Put the code stuff aside. The house is still functioning just fine. Take care of the things that are really important to you right now. If you see something, one of the code items that an inspector calls out, and it makes you concerned, ask the inspector about it. Ask the inspector. Say, hey, is this a safety hazard? Most of the time when I get that question, it's no. This code was a safety improvement. That doesn't mean that it's a safety hazard right now. It could be functioning just fine. And to be clear, that's what we're doing on inspections. We are looking for functionality only. We're not looking for those cosmetic items. We are there to make sure that the home is functioning as it should be, right? So just because the home is not up to code doesn't mean that it's not functioning well, right? That's the differentiation. And that's where we get the clarification. We're here for proper function. If you see something that you don't like, ask. Always ask your inspector. Is it a guaranteed safety issue? If the answer is no, I always tell them proceed forward. Because I hear this from every single agent who has experienced, just like you, Carlos. Every single one of them tells me, I cannot get codes negotiated. It never happens. And Carlos, I can actually tell you why, because I've sat in a conversation like that before. You are experienced, and the person who is across the table from you, who the seller's agent, they're experienced as well. They should be. They're going to know that these code issues are not an issue that can be negotiated. And so they're going to make it really hard to get those negotiated. I see this every single time somebody starts trying to make the fight, you know?
Right. I'm able to negotiate a few of those items. Let's say GFCI protections, right?
That's a safety issue, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is a safety issue,
See?
right? And it's also because back in the day, you know, the code didn't really require, you know, for the breakers, you know, GFCI protections to be like in the kitchen or the bath and things like, or maybe only one, or it was just different coding. And those things have changed for a reason, though, for safety reasons. All right, Colin, let's say, because I just know that even when my clients meet with the inspector there, then that day or that later the next day, we're going to be jumping on a Zoom call and we're going to start reviewing the inspection report just to see what we're going to be able to negotiate, right? We're going to try to determine, okay, let's ask for these things, or let's ask for this, or, you know, let's ignore this. We're going to start classifying into different groups. And then there's still going to be many questions coming to me, all right? And then, I mean, I'm okay answering most of the questions, all right? But then it gets to a point where, like, okay, you know what? Let's get, you know, call the inspector, right? Call the inspectors. Have you ever had to actually, because I've used other inspectors as well, right? And,
of course,
and you know, in the past, some of the other inspectors have agreed to like jump on a Zoom call with me and my client, right? And then we just kind of talk about it because they always have extra questions. Or maybe have you received that call later after you you leave the inspection, then can the buyer call you back and reach out to you and you know, just for second questions that they might have?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I always tell my clients as we're wrapping up. As we're wrapping up that long conversation, you know, there's a ton of information that we just went through. So I always tell them, look, if you have other questions later on, email me, call me. If I can't pick up, text me, request a call back, you know? And yeah, occasionally a Zoom conversation is required. What I find is that when I'm going through a report with my clients, when I'm talking to them about the things that they are concerned about, when I answer their questions, most of the time a Zoom call isn't even required. Most of the time a quick text takes care of it, you know, because the situation usually has boiled down to, okay, we're just going to get our priority list straight here. That's what we're concerned about most now. And usually if I get a call like that, it's because, okay, maybe we didn't explain enough. Maybe there was something that they saw on the report that we didn't actually talk about because I deemed it was a maintenance item, right? And therefore I wouldn't spend a lot of time talking about those kinds of things. And so maybe they're like, well, I want that maintenance item fixed and I'd love to ask the seller for it, you know, but is that going to be a $500 maintenance item or is it going to be a $20 maintenance item, you know? And so that's generally the majority of the questions that I get asked after the fact, because we've already talked about the big stuff. You know, we've already talked about the stuff that's threatening to life, threatening to the house, you know, things like that. So generally the concerns that I get at a callback are very, very small. You know, they're the simple stuff usually. But that's my experience. Not every home inspector is that way, but yeah, my goal is I want to make sure that my clients walk out of that meeting head held high and with a clear plan. Okay, we're going to go get our priority list here. We're going to talk to Carlos about what we can negotiate, what we can realistically, given the situation in the market and everything else that's going on in the transaction right now. And then we're going to proceed forward, right? That's my goal as the inspector. I want that to be happening instead of us to be kind of just muddling, just continuing to worry about what's going on with the house, right?
And I love that because our job is to educate the client, the buyer, educate the buyer, and I mean, we see these things and we know that these things are common and that they're not big ticket items. We know a lot of these things a handyman can fix and repair, you know. So, but when they see the report, you know, 40 pages long, 50 pages long,
Right.
I mean, a lot of my buyers are freaking out, you know, and they freak out, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so this is gonna be a while, right? But we start talking about like going item by item and, you know, explaining what are some of the things about that particular item, right?
Right.
I have to do that because a lot of the times when they're buying the house for the first time and they see all this, they're gonna expect. Sometimes they think that there is a perfect home, and there is not a perfect home.
There is not. Absolutely not.
I have sent inspectors on brand new homes, okay,
Yep.
just built, and they have found items on that house. Okay, there's been items.
For a brand new house is anywhere from 5 to 15 items as an average. That's what I tell all of my clients.
And that's what I noticed. That's what I faced as well when we send the inspector. So as a buyer, you know, they're buying a new house and they think, well, we don't have to worry about inspections because it's a brand new house. Okay. Mm-hmm. But that's not correct. Okay. I always recommend go ahead and send an inspector, a third-party inspector, just because remember, you know, all these trades and all these people, inspectors and everything, they're working for the builder. They're not really there for your best interest, right? They're there for the interest of the builder, you know, who pays them. So it's always better
for their paycheck.
Exactly. So it's always better to send your own inspector, you know, whether calling or anybody else, but make sure that you send an inspector. Now, can we talk about really quickly about face inspections, Colin? Because now that we're talking about new construction, all right. Yep. One of the other things that I tell my clients is that, you know, you have that opportunity, you have the chance to do a face inspection when you're building a brand new house. What does that really mean? Typically, I see face inspections done in 3 different stages. Okay, one, like right before or right after the foundation is poured. Okay, another one right before the sheetrock it's put in place, so you can see all the framing, you can see all the electrical, all the plumbing, everything through the walls. The inspector can see that and inspect that, because once you put the sheetrock, it's too late. You know, everything is hidden. You're not really able to see anything behind the wall. So that will be the phase 2, and then the phase 3 will be at the end. You know, right before you move in, and then there's even a 4th one that I recommend, and that will be the 11-month inspection.
The warranty inspection, yes.
The warranty inspection. What does that mean? Typically, when you buy a brand new house, it's covered front to back, right? The whole house is covered 100%, and it's good to send for 1 year. For 1 year, the good point. So it's good to send an inspector on. I typically tell my clients, put a reminder 11 months from now, right? The 11-month inspection. Let's send an inspector. And those 10, 15 items that you typically find on a brand new house, and now there will be more maybe, right? Yes, then you can send that report to the builder, and then the builder should be fixing those things because everything is under warranty for 1 year. So can you talk about a little bit about the face inspections? I was really brief about it, but can you go into a little bit more detail?
Oh yeah, for sure. So phase 1, like you said, we call it a pre-pour inspection, because that's before they pour the concrete onto the foundation forms, right? There's a whole lot of trenches in there. There's a lot of plumbing, sometimes even electrical. There's lots of reinforcement bar and reinforcement cables, and different size of trenches in different locations that all need to be correct for that foundation to perform optimally over its entire lifespan. And what I like to tell my clients is like, look, This is extremely important because once they pour that concrete, there is no going back.
Mm-hmm.
Once you pour the concrete, you physically have to jackhammer the concrete out, which weakens the structure a little bit, to get to something that may need to be fixed, if you could even tell that it needed to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is you're tunneling underneath the house from one side into the middle, right? And plumbers and foundation experts tend to do this quite frequently because they're looking to, you know, re-level the foundation, or they're looking to fix a sub slab leak, something like that, right? So this is the last opportunity, because here comes an inspector joke. How does the builder fix anything that's wrong there? They cover it with concrete. You know, I mean, it's the easiest fix in the book, right? It's going to be covered with concrete anyway. That's what they're going to do with it. And I'm not knocking the builders. Most of the time, it's just because they're not aware of what's going on. They have so many different people working in so many different things, and it's like a big orchestra. The builder really is only employing the superintendents, their managers, and so they're like the conductor. They're just orchestrating everything. And if they can't see that something's wrong there, then it's going to get covered up. So move to phase 2, though. So once we've got that slab poured, everything, we did that inspection, we got those things taken care of, they move into building the framing, putting in the plumbing, the electrical, the HVAC, or the duct work, the heating and cooling systems, all that kind of stuff. At this point, we go into the exterior coverings, and we've got a roof now too, right? So usually when I walk up to a phase 2, that's what we're seeing. Minus, say, things like we're not going to have all or any of the facade. So we won't have brick, stone, stucco, hardy plank, all those kind of things. We usually don't see those. So on that's our last opportunity to check the moisture barrier. That's your last line of defense from the rainwater, right? It's our last time to check, are the studs and framing, or do those look good? Like, they're good quality? Are they going to support the house? Are they properly installed so that they're going to support all the load of the house, right? We're talking about a very heavy organism here. And it is an organism. It's a living thing, right? Is everything wired properly? Is it plumbed properly? These are the last times we're going to see these things before they get covered with insulation, before they get covered with stone and brick, before they get covered with drywall, right? So that's phase 2. And I would say that one's even more important. And we tend to find tons of items in there as well. And to be clear, phase 1, again, that's usually a minimum of 10 items that I find on a phase 1 inspection.
Wow, that's a lot.
Anything from misplacement of reinforcement items, so the cables and the rebar, misplacement or just improperly done plumbing. We've have areas where the trenching that forms the concrete beams that physically hold up and make that foundation stronger. That's all formed with dirt and sand piles, right? And they put vapor barriers over those. The vapor barrier is always torn in some places. I mean, we've got cave-ins in areas so that we're not forming a beam anymore. We're forming this kind of really weird thing, right? That wouldn't do its job, you know? Mm-hmm. So, and the same thing goes for phase 2. We get issues in there that we can catch that once the walls are closed up, it gets really expensive to fix those things.
Right. And regarding phase 1, let's say the foundation, I noticed that sometimes inspectors have caught, you know how they have these stakes with a mark on it, and when they go and pour the foundation, the cement, they go up to that level, to that mark, right?
That creates the level of the foundation.
Right. So I think one of the inspectors caught that those markers were actually off.
Yes.
They were not level. So imagine that. So everything looks good, you know, everything is fine, but then they pour the foundation and it's already like 1 inch off.
It's already out of level.
Out of level. Like, and the whole breathing thing, like you said, this house that's getting built on top of it, it's all gonna be, you know, like, it's not gonna be uniform, I guess. And I've talked to
Right.
framers. I have talked to framers, and they said that at the end, after they pour the whole thing, like the wooden beams and the studs and everything, there are different sizes
Yeah.
sometimes, and they're supposed to be like the same, right? So they
Right.
just cut them off. And then they continue with the work, right? But
Mhm.
again, they're just kind of hiding all these defects, and
Right.
again, having an inspector is really good, really good. And then the final one, of course, is after the house is built. You just
Right.
is basically just a simple general inspection, right?
Yeah, the phase 3 and the phase 4, that the final inspection once the house is complete, and then that 11-month or warranty inspection, as it's called. Those are more common, or they're more similar to your standard inspection, even for a resale house, right? So one that would be 40, 50 years old, it doesn't matter. We're doing the same process because we want to ensure that over the life of the house, for all the inspections that it gets, we have a standard that we're doing every single time. So we can actually use those reports to kind of compare, okay, at this time, the house was doing this. And now we've got another inspection 10 years later, and now it's doing this, right? So we can kind of use those as a metric to track how the house is doing over time. But yeah, on those 11-month and the phase 3, anything from 5 to, on the 11-month, 20 items, because by then the house is almost a year old. We're definitely going to see some caulking that's failing. We're definitely going to see some settling cracks. All these are normal, but they end up on the report. They're things that we want the builder to take care of one last time, because all you get is that one shot, especially for things that they deem that are cosmetic. So those things like that, they're like, look, we're going to fix it once, and it doesn't matter if it's at 6 months or a year. We're going to fix it once, and that's it. That's what you got, buddy. Right? So I always tell my clients, if something crazy comes up, absolutely have them fix it, but only do the cosmetic stuff right there after we've done that warranty inspection, so that you hit them with everything all at once. I'm basically preparing a list of items for the builder to take care of before you close on the house first for the phase 3 inspection, that final. That's a punch list for them, basically. And it should be taken into the punch list that they already have, because I guarantee you they already have one, right?
Right.
And whether or not the items that we find on that list are on their punch list or not is something that only they know, right? And so it's one of those things that you want to make sure that those things, we're talking about things that I found brand new leaks in new homes. I've found straight up missing bricks. Some of these things are very obvious. Some of them are completely hidden in a way that only an inspector using very specific and highly advanced tools and training is going to be able to find, right? So what you don't want is to skip phase 3 and phase 4, that warranty inspection. Skip those altogether. If you can't do phase 3, then by golly, do your 11-month, right? You better do it, because if not, you could have one of those things that's hidden. I'll tell you, most of these small leaks that I find in the brand new houses, they don't show up for 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years. And then they show up as a stain somewhere on the wall or on the ceiling. And then my clients call me and say, hey, I've got this stain on the ceiling. Or they're usually not my clients, right? They're somebody else's clients, they opted out of the inspection. And they say, well, I had an inspection. And I said, well, who inspected it? It was the builder's inspector. Ouch. Right. The builder, if it's the builder's inspector, it's the builder's people, they only care about what the builder says. And the builder is not always has the best interest of the client, sadly,
And that is sadly but true.
Yes, unfortunately, and I tell my clients this all the time. This is why my profession exists, because if the builders were perfect, I would be out of a lot less work, right? Like I would only be inspecting old houses, and that's it, right? So these are the things that I love talking to my clients about, saying, even if they're sitting on the fence about it, look, there's things that if you really are in a pinch with money, sure, skip one of them, but do never, never, never skip both of them, that phase 3 is the one that I do the most of for new builds, and for good reason, because it's the last time that we get to kind of create our own punch list for the builder on things that we want them to take care of while they still own the house. Because after you close, it's your house and you are totally reliant on that warranty. And that warranty has lots of little outs for that builder, right? They don't have to fix anything and everything. It's only the things that the warranty says that they're going to take care of.
And that's correct. And even then, it has to be a really major problem for them to really do anything. All right.
Usually,
so finally,
yes.
So finally, let's go back to resales, okay?
Yeah.
Because that really will be the majority of the inspections. But let's go back to the resales. And here's this: the market has changed so much from a year and a half ago. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to easily ask for a 10-day option period. Again, we're going back to the option period because again, that's when we call in the inspector. That's when we will be calling and saying, hey, we need you to do this inspection in this house, and we have a 10-day option period. Okay.
Right.
Because we want to see that report before the end of the option period, before the end of the 10 days. It was easily negotiable to buy a 10-day option period. The market has changed so much, and there are so many different offers that now I'm telling my clients, listen, if you really want to make your offer more more appealing to the seller and have better chances of your offer getting accepted, you have to reduce that number of days for the option period.
Yeah.
I have clients that have done it in 2 days, 2-day option period.
Yep.
And believe me,
regularly.
believe it. As soon as I'm sending the offer, I'm calling the inspector. Our offer has not even been accepted yet, and we're already making a reservation. Hey, do you have anything for tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Right. So, we're being really proactive here. Like, we're not gonna wait. Oh, congratulations, you got the house, you got the offer, or your offer was accepted. Now let's call the inspector. That's too late for them. If you're asking for 2 days, you're really going to be on a pinch, and we have to be calling the inspector even before we send the offer. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, 3 days, it's better. 4 days is better. So let's say we go with 3 days. Okay. 3 or 4 days. I can pretty much get you an inspector in 3 or 4 days. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Because I know Colin and I know another 20 inspectors, right?
Right.
If Colin is not available, okay, let's go on to the next one and the next one and the next one until we can find an inspector, right? Of course, I would prefer to be Colin because, I trust him, and it's just
you
better,
want to work with who you trust, right?
Exactly.
Not just who is available, right?
Exactly. But when you're in that pinch of, hey, I got 2 days left in that option period, and we need that inspection, you have to find another inspector, right? Or whoever is available. But let's say I keep telling my clients, okay, 3 days, 4 days is enough to get the inspector in. It should be enough to get the inspector in.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of the time. But what's going to happen after we get the report, right? There are going to be many items that the general inspector is going to say, I recommend you reach out to, the professional in this particular area. Let's say the roofer, right? You will take pictures of missing shingles. You will take pictures of nails that need to be caulking, or you will find items with the roof, and you'll send those inspectors the pictures. But how much is that going to cost us? We don't know that. You're not gonna be telling us how much it's gonna cost us to fix it. So if you want a second opinion and you want the roofing company to go to their house, or you want that plumber, or you want that electrician, you want basically that second opinion, that professional in that field, we're not gonna have enough time with 3 or 4 days option period. We're just plain not gonna have time. So
you still want that extra day or two to get those guys out there during your option period.
Right. If possible.
Yes.
Or else we're just gonna try to negotiate on what's on the report.
Yep.
And maybe we can email the pictures that you send us, Colin. Right? Maybe we might be able to send those pictures to the roofer guy and say, hey, how much will it be to repair, this roof? Or the electrician guys, okay, how much will it be to fix this? Right? That way, at least we have a number, that we
Mhm.
can go back to the seller and try to negotiate on that?
Right.
What can you really add to this? The number of days, and because every report that you send, you always kind of point back to the professional in that particular field, correct?
Right. Yeah, and then that's why I place such a high, especially now. Like even before when we were having 10-day option periods, I was really focused on having guaranteed availability for anybody that called my company within 3 days. Right. On that third day, we're almost guaranteed to be able to have you on the books, right? Or have an inspector at your house. Where now I'm concerned, I want to have availability for all of my clients, anybody who calls my company tomorrow. That's what I'm trying to do right now. That is my top priority. And it is hard, man. It is really
It
hard.
is.
I
It is.
have 3 inspectors, including myself, and we are still trying to keep up with it. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's extremely important because when you've got something, let's say it's a roof, and a lot of times, sadly, I will go up on a roof and go, okay, look, this is something where we've got enough going on with the roof. Say we've got shingle degradation, we've got a lot of granules missing from the shingles. We have several of them that are completely damaged and need to be replaced now if the whole roof doesn't get replaced. We've got the nail heads thing, we've got a soft spot on that roof. So I'm sitting here wondering, going, okay, is this roof in the last stages of its life? And that's something that I'm going to talk to my clients about, saying, hey, you really probably want to know, talk to a roofer. You need to get a roofer out here. You want to ask them, how much longer do I have with this roof, right? Is this going to last me 1 year, 3 years? Does it have 5 years, right?
Mhm.
Are we really that lucky and we can get 5 years out of it? But at the minimum, if we've got something like that that's really iffy, we know that it needs repairs, and that's fine. We can budget for those, and we can negotiate for them. But it's one thing to negotiate for a small list of repairs. It's completely different thing to negotiate for a new roof,
Brand
right?
new roof, correctly.
Right.
Correct. Right.
So what we want is that's the tough part that I get into as a real estate agent. You called me a general inspector, and you are exactly correct to do that. I like calling myself a jack of all trades, where we are trained as inspectors in the state of Texas to find lots of problems. We are not, absolutely not experts at fixing any of them, right?
Mhm.
So what I want is for my clients to take anything that I'm seeing that's like, okay, this could be iffy, this could be a replacement, or it could just be repairs, but I can't tell you which one. That's exactly the time when you want those extra couple of days during the option period to get your roofer out there, get your plumber out there, even get your general contractor out there because you wanted to have a remodel in the first place,
Right.
especially if we're
Right.
talking about a resale house. A lot of times I've got my clients asking me, hey, can I knock out this wall? From what I'm seeing, sometimes I can comfortably say, yeah, you should be able to, but you need to talk to your GC about it, right? Or I don't have access to that part of the house. I cannot see enough. I don't have enough information here to be able to tell you whether or not you can knock out that wall, right? So that's where we love having those extra couple of days during the option period to get these extra people into the house, get their eyes on it, and get solid numbers for one, and then extra opinions that your inspector just cannot give you, right?
That's exactly correct. Yes. So getting those extra days is been a challenge for us as realtors,
Yes.
just because we have to make our offer competitive, or else we're not going to be able to get a house for our clients. But I want my clients to understand exactly what you're saying, right?
Right.
And basically what we're saying, understanding that okay, this number of days is enough to send the inspector, but it might not be enough to send, the
Right. To get the
that
other guys in.
exactly. All right.
Right.
So lastly, Colin, could you talk about a little bit just what type of inspections do you guys do? All right. What
Yep.
are some of the typical? We have sprinkler systems, we have pools, we have
Yep.
so many different things. And can you talk a little bit about your office, your company? How many? You already mentioned you have three other inspectors, and some
Yep.
of the tools and technology that you use. I know some of the inspectors are flying drones,
Yep.
for some of the homes that are really high pitch, roofs or things like that. I've seen inspectors with like an extension
Full camera. Yep.
Yeah, with a camera, you know, at the end. And so, can you talk about what do you inspect? What are some of the technology that you do, and then talk about your office, because we're trying to wrap up this in the next 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, and I want to try to keep that really short because that is a huge loaded question. You know, you and I, as people who network a lot, we spend hours talking about these things about our business, right? So first and foremost, Panther Inspections is a high tech. We use the latest technology and techniques to get our clients the best information that they can, right? That's in a nutshell what we're doing, and my goal. As far as what we inspect, almost every single thing on the house we can. So in addition to your general common items, your foundation, walls, you know, appliances, stuff like that, I have a whole list of things that you can find on pantherinspections.com of what we do and what we don't inspect on a standard inspection. And then, like you said, all of the sprinkler systems, pool spas, septic systems, wells, even sewer camera inspections. Our company is fully outfitted to do all of that kind of stuff, right? So we have, my goal is a one-stop shop, right? I want to make sure that we're using not just the latest techniques and the latest technology, but we have enough of it and enough training to make sure that we take care of all concerns that our clients could possibly have for whatever kind of property they're buying. You know,
and just to touch up on that, it's really expensive. Some of these tools are really expensive. Okay, I know inspectors have these called the SIP level, right?
Yep.
Where it basically measures the level of the foundation from once, you know, they like you choose a center point in the house, and then you measure all around the house, and then you give us a diagram with, you know, the elevation of the foundation, right? To kind of possibly tell us if there's any kind of foundation settlement and things like that. That I believe that tool by itself is a few $1,000s. Is that correct?
Yeah. So a good one of those will be about anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, but that's not even my most expensive piece of equipment. Carlos, I used an industrial quality FLIR thermal imager. It's $8,000. And that's something that I provide at no extra charge because I believe so heavily in what thermal imaging can do for my clients. I mean, that's just a couple of examples. I do carry a drone in every single one of my trucks, right? We want to make sure that if we cannot walk that roof, because that's our primary goal, we want to walk that roof. That's the best way to inspect the roof. A drone is substandard, right? It's not as good. But if it's the best thing that we have because we can't get on the roof, I want to make sure that we've got it as a tool. So yes, we're doing all of that kind of stuff to make sure that we're getting our clients the best information that they possibly can get, right? So as far as the rest of the company, as I said, I've got 3 inspectors. And myself included. I am actually the least experienced with 8 years of experience. My other guys are 10 and I believe 18. Okay, so these guys have been doing it a lot longer than I have. We're all extremely committed to the industry itself, and we're extremely committed to our training, right? So most of us, some of us, of course, we have off years. You know, COVID didn't help us, but we all are doing almost double the training that's required of us by Trek every single year. I have a goal to add at least one single service to our loadout every single year, right? And so this year I added 3.
That's great.
I mean, I'm doing everything that we possibly can to make Panther Inspections the best choice in Austin, right? That's and the surrounding area. That's what I want. I want to make sure that people who come to us are taken care of very well, that they enjoy talking with their inspectors, because I love sharing the knowledge that I have up here with my clients, right? That's why I got into this. And it's because I love sharing my knowledge. But at the same time, you know, if I have a lot of knowledge, but then didn't do a great inspection, how am I going to be able to share the knowledge about this house, right? So that's where all the latest tools and technology comes in, because it gets me the best information about this house so I can then pass that on to my clients.
And that's great. That's great, Colin. I mean, I think we have a lot of things in common. We do love to network, and we could be talking about real estate and inspections for hours. Honestly,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
this could easily be 2 hours, but we're not
Yes.
gonna do that. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll do a second part later on. But thanks again, Colin. I got Colin's phone number here. He's with Panther Inspections, and then I'm gonna put his Facebook professional page as well. You can go ahead and like that page to follow that. And then I'm going to put your email as well. All right. So that's how they can reach you. What's the best way, really? I mean, I know most of your clients are coming through us, the realtors.
Yes.
But somebody may be thinking about doing that 11-month inspection, after the fact, because their realtor didn't tell them about it. But they hear it from our page and from you.
Right.
So, I mean, what's just the best way for them to get a hold of you? You have a website that I have not listed here. What is your website?
It's pantherinspections.com. Very simple, right? But yeah, that's the best place to just go, okay, what is an inspection? What does it include? What does it not include? Where can I get more information about inspections? Our website is a plethora of information there. And then the best way, if you're looking for more information about this, you have questions about pricing, availability, kind of, hey, do you guys do this weird inspection thing that I heard about? Most likely the answer is yes, but the best way to get more information about that kind of stuff is to call us. That 512-710-5226. You're going to be, I can't always be in the office, so you're going to talk to our office staff. They're all very, very well trained, and they're very friendly. But they're going to be able to tell you what our availability is first and foremost. So when you've got one of those 3-day option periods, can we get you on the schedule? If not, we're going to get you connected with somebody who can, right? And then, I love talking to people. So, email is always good, as well, as far as just asking me general questions. But if you really want to make sure that if you're in a time crunch, please call us. That's probably the best way to do it.
All right. Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much for this hour. Lots of knowledge, a lot of information. And I mean, I'm hoping this video will help, future buyers just sit down and really think about the inspections, right? Because I'm telling you, a lot of them are saying, "Oh, I probably don't need an inspector," but it is my duty to let you know about the inspection, and for your protection, get a home inspection. All right, and I'm gonna make you sign that paper. Anyways, thank you, everybody. You can find me on Facebook at Carlos Cruz Realtor, and then my phone number is 512-689-9353. My email is carlos@carloscruzrealtor.com. If you have any kind of questions, we're here to help. And I'm a member of this. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but I met Colin through our BNI group, networking group, which has been helping me so greatly. I'm connecting with a lot of people, a lot of professionals. 2 weeks ago, with HSS Painting, also a member of BNI. And, we were here to help everybody and, at any time. So give us a call. We know people and we know inspectors, we know lawyers, we know a lot of different people in our network. So give us a call if you have any questions for anything. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And Colin, once again, man, it's been a pleasure. And thanks for joining this live.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for your time, Carlos.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
You as well. Bye.